Welcome to Alternatify, the place where we explore the fascinating pathways of history that never were. We delve into the pivotal moments where a single different choice could have reshaped our entire world. Today, we embark on one of the most profound what-ifs in modern history. Imagine a world where the Vietnam War as we know it simply never happened. Picture a different 1960s and 70s, untouched by the immense conflict that defined a generation. Our central question is stark. What if America had stayed out, allowing communism to spread like wildfire across Southeast Asia? This isn't just a thought experiment. It's an exploration of the intricate ripple effects that cascade from a single historical divergence. We'll uncover the surprising and often unsettling consequences of such a monumental shift. Prepare to see how the butterfly effect might have truly transformed our global landscape. For many, the Vietnam War isn't just a chapter in a textbook. It's a deeply personal story. Perhaps a grandparent served, or a family was divided by its shadow. This sense of profound loss, of wasted potential and resources, often fuels the desire to ask, could it have been different? Our journey begins in 1954, a critical juncture in Southeast Asian history. The French, after a brutal colonial struggle, suffered a decisive defeat at Dien Bien Phu. Vietnam was subsequently divided, setting the stage for a looming ideological battle. This is our point of divergence. What if, at this crucial moment, the United States had chosen a fundamentally different path? What if diplomacy and economic aid, rather than military intervention, became the cornerstone of its strategy? Our purpose here is not to judge the past, but to understand the complex decisions that shaped it, and to explore the myriad possibilities that lay just beyond our historical reality. To understand our alternative, we must first grasp the historical reality. The primary driver behind US involvement was the pervasive Domino Theory. The fear was simple: if one nation in Southeast Asia fell to communism, its neighbors would inevitably follow, like a row of dominoes. This fear was amplified by the intense geopolitical climate of the Cold War. The Soviet Union and a newly communist China loomed large, and the policy of containment became paramount for American foreign policy. Preventing the spread of communism was seen as a global imperative. US involvement began gradually, almost imperceptibly. President Eisenhower offered aid, Kennedy sent advisors, and Johnson steadily escalated the commitment. Each step seemed a logical progression, driven by the perceived threat. The Gulf of Tonkin incident in 1964 provided the critical justification for full-scale military intervention. It was the catalyst that transformed a limited advisory role into a full-blown war. But what if this moment had played out differently? Our divergence point hinges on a more cautious approach. Imagine a skeptical Congress or a public less swayed by Cold War rhetoric. What if the US prioritized robust diplomacy and economic aid, explicitly ruling out ground troops? This single shift could have altered everything. In our alternative timeline, the United States withdraws its support, or perhaps never offers it in the first place. Without American aid, training, and military presence, the South Vietnamese government struggles to maintain control. Its forces are outmatched and demoralized. The inevitable outcome unfolds swiftly. Saigon falls not in 1975, but perhaps much earlier, and with less prolonged resistance. Vietnam is unified under communist rule, a single, powerful socialist state. The domino theory begins to play out with chilling accuracy. Laos, already deeply influenced by Vietnamese communists, quickly falls under their complete control. Its fate is sealed almost immediately after Vietnam's unification. The Pathet Lao consolidate power, establishing a communist government. Cambodia, already destabilized by internal conflicts, becomes highly susceptible. The Khmer Rouge, a brutal communist faction, rises to power perhaps even earlier and with less external interference. Their reign of terror, the infamous killing fields, might begin sooner and with even greater ferocity. The regional impact is profound. Thailand, now surrounded by communist neighbors, faces immense pressure and internal insurgency. Malaysia and other nations in the region feel the immediate threat, their political landscapes shifting dramatically. Widespread turmoil and uncertainty grip the entire region. The result is a Southeast Asia dominated by communist regimes. These nations align themselves closely with China and the Soviet Union, forming a formidable bloc in the global Cold War. The geopolitical map of Asia is redrawn. Let's consider the potential upsides of this alternative reality. First and foremost, the human cost for America would be drastically reduced. Thousands of American lives would be saved, and the deep social and political divisions that scarred the nation would be avoided. The profound trauma of the war would simply not exist. Economically, resources that were poured into the Vietnam War could have been invested domestically. This might have led to faster US economic growth, funding for social programs, or advancements in infrastructure and technology. The national debt might have been significantly lower. The Cold War itself might have taken a different trajectory. Without the quagmire of Vietnam, the US could have focused more on economic competition and diplomatic engagement. It might have been a less militarized, though still tense, global standoff. Paradoxically, some might argue for a potential eventual regional stability under communist regimes. After the initial turmoil, these unified states might have established a new, albeit authoritarian order. Social reforms, however brutal, might have been implemented. However, the cons of this alternative reality are equally, if not more, stark. The humanitarian crisis would be immense. Brutal communist rule would lead to widespread political persecution, economic hardship, and severe human rights abuses. The scale of suffering, particularly in Cambodia, could be even more devastating. The loss of freedom would be pervasive. Basic human rights, including freedom of speech, press, and assembly, would be curtailed across the region. Dissent would be ruthlessly suppressed, leading to widespread fear and oppression. The Cold War tensions might actually increase, rather than decrease. A more confident and expansive communist bloc in Asia could heighten the risk of direct military confrontation elsewhere. The ideological battle lines would be drawn even more sharply. Economically, these communist economies would likely suffer from stagnation. Centralized planning and lack of market incentives often hinder development, leading to widespread poverty. The region's economic potential would remain largely untapped. Finally, a massive refugee crisis would undoubtedly emerge. Millions would flee these oppressive regimes, seeking safety and freedom in neighboring countries or further abroad. This would strain international relations and create immense humanitarian challenges for decades. The absence of the Vietnam War would profoundly alter the rise of China. Without the US entangled in Southeast Asia, the US-China relationship might have developed differently. China's economic rise could have been accelerated, or perhaps even slowed, depending on the geopolitical dynamics. Global trade and economics would look very different. Southeast Asia, under communist control, would be less integrated into the global capitalist system. This would impact supply chains, manufacturing, and the flow of goods and capital worldwide. Cultural exchange between the West and Southeast Asia would be significantly altered. The vibrant cultural scene that emerged from the war's aftermath, including music, art, and literature, would be entirely different. Connections would be fewer and more strained. The US foreign policy approach, particularly regarding the war on terror, would likely be different. Without the lessons and scars of Vietnam, American interventionism might have taken a different form, or perhaps been more or less restrained in subsequent conflicts. Technological advancements might have followed a different trajectory. Resources and research efforts diverted from military technology could have accelerated development in other areas, or perhaps slowed it down in specific fields. The pace and areas of innovation would shift. Finally, the political landscape of the United States would be less polarized. The deep divisions and mistrust that emerged from the Vietnam War would be absent. This could lead to a more unified, or at least differently fractured, American political climate. Let's delve deeper into some specific scenarios. The Cambodian genocide under the Khmer Rouge might have occurred earlier and been even more devastating. Without the US presence, there would be less international attention or potential for intervention. The atrocities could have been even more unchecked. The Cold War in Asia would intensify. With a unified communist Vietnam, Laos and Cambodia, the ideological battleground would shift. We might see more proxy wars in other parts of Asia or increased military buildups in neighboring non-communist states. The region would remain a flashpoint. The refugee crisis would be a massive humanitarian challenge. Millions of people, fleeing persecution and poverty, would seek asylum. This would place immense strain on international aid organizations and neighboring countries, potentially leading to new geopolitical tensions. The impact on American society would be profound. Without the anti-war movement, the counterculture of the 1960s and 70s might have taken a different form. The cultural and political landscape would be reshaped with different heroes, different grievances, and different social movements. The role of technology would also be altered. Military research and development, often spurred by conflict, might have been delayed or redirected. Innovations in areas like helicopter design, medical evacuation, or even computing could have followed a different path. Regardless of the what if, the human cost of conflict and oppression remains immense. Families would still be torn apart, lives lost, and dreams shattered, albeit under different circumstances. The suffering would simply manifest in new ways. The experiences of refugees, fleeing their homes and seeking safety, would be a central narrative. Their stories of courage, resilience, and the desperate search for a better life would echo across generations. Their journeys would define an era. Life under oppressive regimes would be a constant struggle for survival and dignity. People would find ways to resist, to preserve their culture, and to maintain hope in the face of overwhelming odds. The human spirit, even under duress, often finds a way to endure. These stories serve as a powerful reminder. They underscore the fundamental importance of human rights, the value of democracy, and the constant need to strive for a better world. The lessons of history, even alternative history, are often about the enduring human spirit. The butterfly effect, where a small change creates large differences, would be evident in countless unforeseen ways. For instance, the space race might have unfolded differently. With resources not tied up in Vietnam, perhaps earlier breakthroughs or a different focus in space exploration could have occurred. New alliances might have risen, reshaping the geopolitical landscape. Nations might have formed different blocs, or existing alliances might have strengthened or weakened in unexpected ways. The global balance of power would be fundamentally altered. A shift in global culture would be inevitable. The Vietnam War profoundly influenced 20th and 21st century art, music, and literature. Without it, different themes, different voices, and different movements would have emerged, shaping our collective consciousness. The evolution of technology would also be affected. Research and development, often driven by military needs or societal pressures, would have a different focus. Innovations in areas like medicine, communication, or energy could have accelerated or been delayed. Ultimately, a different world order would emerge. The balance of power, the nature of international relations, and the global challenges we face today would all be fundamentally changed. It would be a world both familiar and profoundly alien. This journey into an alternative past offers crucial lessons for our present. It underscores the immense importance of diplomacy in resolving international complexities. It highlights the profound consequences of intervention, both intended and unintended. It encourages critical thinking, urging us to question assumptions and consider alternative perspectives. History is rarely a straight line, and understanding its branching paths helps us navigate our own choices. Above all, it reinforces the universal value of human rights. Freedom, justice, and equality are not abstract concepts. They are fundamental to human dignity. The potential for their loss, even in a hypothetical scenario, is a stark reminder of their importance. History is not set in stone. It is a continuous narrative shaped by human choices. Our decisions today, both individually and collectively, have the power to shape the future. The paths we choose now will determine the world our descendants inherit. This exploration reminds us of our power to create a better world. By striving for peace, justice, and prosperity, we can avoid the pitfalls of the past and build a future that truly serves humanity. We've glimpsed into a world without US involvement in the Vietnam War, a Southeast Asia dominated by communist regimes. It's a world both chilling and thought-provoking. Was it better or worse? Would it have been more peaceful, or would the Cold War have intensified elsewhere? Would the human cost have been greater or lesser? These are not easy questions, and there are no simple answers. But they are vital questions to ponder. We want to hear your thoughts. What do you think would have been the most significant ripple effect? Share your insights and theories in the comments below. If you found this journey into alternative history as intriguing as we did, please give this video a like. Your engagement helps us explore more fascinating what-ifs. And don't forget to subscribe to Alternatify for more deep dives into the roads not taken. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep imagining the possibilities.